trenches, and artillery. It was not fought only with rifles, barbed wire, and bayonets. World War I was also a financial war. A war fought in vaults of gold, in bond markets, inside central banks, and behind the closed doors of financiers who never stepped onto a battlefield. Soldiers paid with their lives, but governments and bankers were calculating balance sheets. And the decisions made in those years did not just decide who won or lost the war. They reshaped the global financial system, a system whose consequences still surround you today. If you believe wars are only about politics and armies, think again. The First World War proved that money itself is a weapon, and one of the most powerful ever created. Before we go deeper, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Wealthime Archive. History hides its most important lessons in finance, and you don't want to miss them. By 1914, Europe was already unstable. National rivalries, colonial competition, and rigid military alliances had turned the continent into a fragile chessboard. Public speeches spoke of honor, empire, and destiny, but beneath that language was a harder truth. A war of this scale could not be fought without unimaginable amounts of money, and when leaders chose war, they were also choosing debt. Every army marching toward the front was dragging its population into decades of financial burden. Yet, at the beginning, most governments believed the conflict would be short, a few months, perhaps over by Christmas. They assumed they could pay for it the old way, with gold reserves, limited borrowing, and patriotic donations. That illusion collapsed almost immediately. In 1914, the global financial system was still anchored to the gold standard. Paper money was supposed to be exchangeable for real gold. This gave currencies credibility, but it also restricted governments. Gold was finite. You could not print endlessly without destroying trust. Britain, France, and Germany all held respectable reserves. But once millions of men were mobilized and entire industries were converted to weapons production, costs exploded. Germany was soon spending more than 10 million marks every single day. Britain's expenses climbed toward £2.5 million per day. The numbers were unforgiving. The gold would not last. So governments did something unprecedented. They suspended the rules. One by one, major powers abandoned the gold standard. Money was no longer backed by metal, only by confidence in the state. This moment quietly changed modern history. It revealed how fragile real wealth truly was. Once money was untethered from gold, power shifted toward printing presses, credit, and persuasion. And once governments discovered this freedom, there was no return. Germany, isolated by naval blockades and cut off from global capital markets, had few options, so Berlin turned inward. Massive war bond campaigns flooded the country. Citizens were urged to invest their savings for victory. Posters glorified sacrifice. Propaganda promised repayment after triumph. More than 100 million marks were raised this way. But it was a structure built entirely on hope. When defeat came, the bonds collapsed in value. Millions lost their life savings, and that financial trauma planted bitterness that would poison Germany for decades. Economic wounds do not disappear. They transform into political extremism.
France faced a different challenge. Still scarred by earlier wars and burdened by defensive spending, it relied heavily on borrowing. French citizens were encouraged to buy government bonds, but the deepest funding again came from across the Atlantic. This dependency shaped post-war politics. Debt became a silent force behind diplomatic tension and economic instability. The interwar crisis was not just about markets or reparations. It was about the crushing weight of wartime borrowing. Russia's financial war was catastrophic. Its empire was vast, but its economy fragile. Borrowing surged, inflation spiraled, confidence in the ruble collapsed. By 1917, the economy was broken. The political system followed. The fall of the Tsar was not only ideological, it was financial. Monetary chaos and economic failure helped ignite revolution. Once again, money and power fell together. By 1918, the scale was staggering. The Allies had spent over $140 billion, the Central Powers around $60 billion. These figures dwarfed pre-war national incomes. The gold standard lay in ruins. Inflation tore through economies. In Germany, prices reached absurd levels. Bread cost billions of marks. Workers, savers, and small investors suffered the most. Elites often protected themselves, moving assets, buying real goods, staying close to power. In a financial war, the smallest players bleed first. World War I taught governments a dangerous lesson. They learned they could finance the unimaginable. They could suspend gold, print endlessly, issue bonds to citizens, borrow across borders, and deal with consequences later. This playbook never disappeared. Every major modern crisis carries echoes of 1914. When leaders say inflation is temporary, remember history. People believed the same promises then until their savings vanished. After the war, the United States held the world's largest gold reserves. Europe was drowning in debt. Britain and France demanded reparations from Germany to pay their own obligations, but the sums were unrealistic. Germany could not pay without destroying its economy. Hyperinflation followed, social anger followed, and extremists exploited it. Britain's attempt to return to the gold standard in 1925 only deepened suffering. Deflation, unemployment, and unrest spread. The system was fragile. When the Great Depression arrived, it collapsed entirely. The First World War was not only a military turning point, it was a financial one. It showed how debt could be sold as patriotism, how money could be separated from reality, and how ordinary people would pay the price. History does not repeat itself exactly, but it rhymes. Never assume money is real because it is printed. Never assume stability because authorities promise it. The truth is always hidden in balance sheets, and history is the only teacher that does not lie. If this perspective changed how you see money and power, like this video and subscribe to Wealthime Archive, because the past explains the present and prepares you for the future.